So here in this video presentation, let's see about different methods of proof and different methods of disproof. So these are different proofs under different conditional scheme. So if we want to prove any particular condition, we need to establish it by using rules or laws of logic. So that is the basic criteria. So if we get any rules or laws pertaining to solving a conditional, then we can say that we can have a proof. Or else if the proposition is false, thereby in spite of applying any rules or laws of logic, then we say it is a disproof. So the first kind of proof is direct proof. And the second method that we have is indirect proof. The third method is proof by contradiction. The fourth is proof by exhaustion, and fifth one is proof by existence. So let's go through in detail all these kinds of proofs as well as different methods of disproofs. So we have got basically two methods of disproof, that is disproof by contradiction and disproof by counter example. So if we start discussing about the first proof, so in the first proof, that is direct proof. Okay, in the direct proof, so each kind of proofs or disproofs have got three sections, that is hypothesis, analysis and conclusion. So in the hypothesis, we are going to assume a particular condition. So in the direct proof, we are assuming the hypothesis and based on the conditional. So let's take P implies Q is the conditional, and how do we prove this conditional? So we take the hypothesis P as true. So this is what we take the hypothesis in case of direct proof. We take P to be true. We first assume P as true. So in the analysis portion, we start with this kind of hypothesis, that is based on P is true, and we apply any rules or laws of logic, and we infer that Q is true. Okay, so thereby we can have the conclusion P implies Q is true, right? If P is true, Q is true, we can say P implies Q is true. That is, we can conclude that the conditional is true. So this is the direct way of proving the conditional P implies Q. So moreover, after discussion of these kind of proofs, we are going to see how to solve these proofs based on problems. So anyways, we will continue with the second kind of proof, that is indirect proof. So what happens in indirect proof is, based on the conditional, as you know, indirectly we can prove the conditional by just taking its contrapositive. So what is the contrapositive of this conditional? Negation Q implies negation P. So first we are starting with this approach, taking the contrapositive and then directly proving the conditional. So what will be the hypothesis is, we are going to assume that negation Q is true. Okay, we are going to assume that negation Q is true. And in the analysis portion, we apply rules or laws of logic, and then we infer that negation P is true. So we infer that negation P is true. So thereby this proves the contrapositive, right? This proves the contrapositive. And once this proof of contrapositive, it's actually an indirect proof to the conditional P implies Q, and therefore we can say the conditional P implies Q. So next we move to the proof by contradiction. So what is this proof of contradiction is, we take P implies Q to be false. So that is our hypothesis. We assume P implies Q is false. So what happens if P implies Q is false is, P is true, right? Q will be false. If P implies Q is false, P obviously will have truth value as true. Q will have truth value as false. So now starting with this hypothesis. We take this hypothesis, and then from this hypothesis we have got truth values of P and truth values of Q. Now first we take the truth value of Q. Okay, we start with Q value as false. We start with Q value as false, right? Because we know if P implies Q is false and P is true. We start with Q is false. And then we apply rules or laws of logic and we infer that P is false. We infer that P is false. So this contradicts the assumption that P is true. Okay, this contradicts the assumption that P is true. Okay, first of all in the analysis portion we start with Q is false and we infer that P is false. By applying rules or laws of logic, we get somewhat as a truth value of P as false. Thereby, this contradicts the assumption, whatever we have taken, P as true. So, what can you say in the conclusion? In the conclusion, we can say because of this contradiction, we infer that P implies Q is true. Right? So, what we have taken is contradicting. So we have taken this as false. But that means we have arrived in a different manner, right? We have got P is false and therefore whatever our assumption was there was false. It contradicted. Therefore we can say that P implies Q conditional has to be true. So this is nothing but proof by contradiction. So this is the third kind of proofs. So coming to the next one, that is a proof by exhaustion. So what we are doing in proof by exhaustion is, we are taking the proposition of the form for all x belongs to some universe, let's say S, comma P of x. And we know that this P of x is nothing but your open statement. This P of x is true if P of x is true for each and every element in this universe, right? If P of this particular quantified statement is true, only if P of x is true for each and every element in the universe S. But if S consists of limited number of elements, we can prove each one of them. But if it consists of very large number of elements, it's like proving by exhaustion. We need to prove each and every element, okay, whether P of A is true for each A in S, and thereby we can say P of A is true and so on. That is, we need to try out each and every element and check whether it is true. So that is nothing but your proof by exhaustion. So in this method you have to try each and every element that is there in the universe in order to justify the truth value. So coming to the last proof, that is proof by existence. So in this proof by existence, we need to check out for one particular entity in the universe. That is, we can write the quantified statement in this form. There exists x belongs to S, comma P of x. So we need to check out for one quantity, let's say A. Okay, so where A belongs to the universe, let's say S. And if we know that for A it is true, we can say that P of A is true. Okay, if we have taken one component in that universe and if we find out whether that the open statement is true, then we can say P of A is true. That is, we are taking some component and justifying the truth value. So here in this method, we can take some values that satisfies the given question or the given equation. That is nothing but your proof by existence or proof of existence. Okay, now let's move to the disproofs. So in the disproofs, we have got two methods. One is disproof by contradiction and disproof by counter example. Okay, disproof by counter example. So in the disproof by contradiction, we are supposed to disprove the conditional P implies Q. So for this purpose, we assume the hypothesis. So how we can disprove the conditional? So we first assume the hypothesis, that is P is true and Q is true. We are taking this as the hypothesis and we end up with the contradiction. Okay, we end up with the contradiction. So by this way of contradiction, we can conclude that P implies Q is false. Okay. So what do we do in this method is we have to disprove the conditional, right? So first we start with the reverse, that is we assume P is true and Q is true. Thereby we arrive at the contradiction, that means they are false. Okay. Therefore, we arrive at the contradiction. It means that Q is false. Q has somewhere turned out to be false. Okay, that we arrive at some particular stage during analysis. And what happens if we arrive at Q is false during analysis? We can conclude that P implies Q is false, right? So this is nothing but disprove by contradiction. We are disproving the conditional. So next, coming to the last disprove, that is disprove by counter example. So what is there in this particular method is, we are taking a particular proposition of the form for all x belongs to S, comma P of x, and we can say that this particular proposition is false. Then we can say this particular proposition is false if we take any one element A belongs to the universe. Okay, if we take any one element A belongs to the universe such that P of A is false. Correct? So we can say that it is true for every element. See, instead of finding out each and every element where this particular proposition turns to be false, we can take one particular element from the universe and say that it is true, it is false. Okay, it is false for that particular open statement. Okay, thereby we can disprove using a counter example. So this is the best way of disproving a proposition, wherein we just exhibit one case where the proposition is false. Okay, thereby disproving the entire. So this is nothing but disproving by counter example. So these are all the methods and methods of proof and methods of disproof. So next we will see some problems related to all these. So hello. So let's welcome back to the same methods of proof as well as methods of disproof. So in the previous presentation, I have told in detail different kinds of proofs as well as different kinds of disproofs. So let's solve problems related to all these concepts. So first of all, let's move to the direct proof. So when you solve this based on the direct proof, you should remember the three kinds of sections, that is hypothesis, analysis and conclusion. So let's take a particular problem. So give a direct proof of the statement. So the question is given as the square of an odd integer is an odd integer. Okay, so first of all, before writing these three sections within direct proof, we need to translate this in terms of variables. So for example, what does this statement tells is the square of an odd integer is an odd integer. So that means if n is an odd integer, then square, that means n squared is an odd integer. So this is how I can translate the given question. So if n is an odd integer, then n square is an odd integer. So now let's write the three sections under direct proofs. So first of all, we have to write what is hypothesis. So in the direct proof, you're assuming P is true. That is, assume P is true. This is what we have to assume. So let's denote what is P and what is Q. So let us say P as n is an odd integer. Okay, and Q as n square is an odd integer. Okay, so this is the first thing that we have to do. So next, that is, we have to assume n is an odd integer. So as per our hypothesis, we are going to assume n is an odd integer. That is, P is true. We are taking as it is. So now, since n is an odd integer, how can I write this n as? I can write this n as n is equal to 2k plus 1, where k is some integer. Okay. So this will denote an odd integer, right? So for example, if I take k is 1, so it will be 2 plus 1, that is 3, so it is an odd integer. If I take k is 2, it will be 4 plus 1, that is 5, it is an odd integer. So this form represents an odd integer. Okay, so next what we have to do in the analysis portion is we are going to apply rules and laws of logic and infer that q is true, that is n square is an odd integer. We are going to get this particular thing, that is n square is an odd integer. So for that, let us find out n square from this. So what is n square? N square is 2k plus 1 the whole square. It's nothing but 4k square plus 4k plus 1. So this term exactly is an odd integer, right? It is not divisible by 2. Therefore, we can say n square is an odd integer. And it is not divisible by 2. And therefore, this means that we have proved or we have inferred that q is true. So what is q? N square is an odd integer. Yes, we have got it. Okay. So next, so what we write in the conclusion is, since we have got p is true as well as q also is true. So what will be p implies q? Yeah, p implies q will be also true. Thereby we are giving a direct proof, or we can say this gives a direct proof. This gives a direct proof to the conditional. This gives a direct proof to the conditional. That means you are directly proving p implies q is true. So this is how we need to solve a problem based on direct proofs. Okay, so let's move to the second kind of proof, that is solving in terms of indirect proof. Okay, solving in terms of indirect proof. So this is the question given. So first of all, you need to know how to solve based on the indirect proofs. That is, in order to prove a conditional p implies q, we start with the contrapositive. Negation q implies negation p. And infer that negation p is true. We start with negation q is true and infer that negation p is true, thereby proving this contrapositive, which is an indirect proof to the conditional. This is how we need to start. Okay, so first of all, let's write down this particular question in terms of variables. So here you have been given the product of two even integers is an even integer. So let me take, if a and b are two even integers, or if I take if a and b are even integers, okay, if a and b are even integers, then the product, that is, I will take it as AB. Then AB is an even integer. Okay, this is how I can translate the question into variable form. So if I take A and B are even integers, then AB, that is the product, is an even integer. Okay, so now let's write down what is P and what is Q. So as per the question, P denotes A and B are even integers. A and B are even integers. And what about Q? What does Q denote? Q denotes AB is an even integer. Okay, AB is an even integer. So next, so after writing what is P and Q, so let's write the 3 steps. That is, first of all, we need to have hypothesis, then we need to derive the analysis, and then lastly the conclusion. So we'll start with the contrapositive. What is the contrapositive? Negation Q implies negation P. What does negation Q tells? We start with negation Q is true. That means we are going to say that AB, negation Q means what? AB is an even integer, is Q, right? Q denotes AB is an even integer. Negation Q will be AB is an odd integer, right? So we are going to start with this. Assume that, okay, I'll write in the hypothesis, assume that negation Q is true. We'll start with this assumption here in direct proof. Okay, so assume that negation Q is true means that AB is not an even integer. If it is not an even integer, obviously it is not divisible by 2. Right? I can also say it is not divisible by 2. So if AB is not divisible by 2, obviously A is not divisible by 2 and B is also not divisible by 2, right? So for example, if I take, for this, if I want to demonstrate this instance, if I take A is 2, B is, you should take in such a way that it is not an even integer, okay? So I will take this in terms of some numbers apart from 2, I will take it as 3 and let me say 3, okay? So now AB, is it an AB, just multiply this, 3 into 3, 9. Is it an even integer? No, it's not an even integer. So what will be A? A, is it divisible by 2? No. B is not divisible by 2, right? So this is how we can check, cross verify, okay? So since we have got AB is not an even integer, obviously A is not an even integer, that is A is not divisible by 2 and also B is also not divisible by 2, and thereby we can say that A is also not an even integer and B is also not an even integer, right? Is not an even integer. So what we have started is, we have started with negation Q is true, that is AB is not an even integer, and we infer that negation P is true. What is negation P? A is not an even integer and B is not an even integer. Yes, we have arrived at that portion. That is, we have proved that negation P is true. Okay, negation P is true. So this proves the contrapositive, right? This proves the contrapositive. Why? Because negation Q, you are assuming it to be true, and finally we've got negation P is true. So what will be this conditional? So we have directly proving the contrapositive. But this proof of contrapositive is an indirect proof to the conditional. It is an indirect proof to the conditional. Why? Because we are not directly taking the condition, we are writing the logical equivalent form of P implies Q. So P implies Q is also logically equivalent to its contrapositive. When we are taking with the starting with the contrapositive and going on following the steps, and thereby we are proving the contrapositive, which is an indirect proof to the conditional. So this is how we will solve based on indirect proofs. So let's solve similar problem on indirect proof. So this is the question given. So for all integers k and l, if kl is odd, then both k and l are odd. Okay, this is the question. So how do we solve this? So first of all, we need to write this in terms of variable. So it's already written here. So first of all, we need to denote what is p and what is q. So p is, can observe, kl is odd. Okay, I'll write here kl is odd. That is our p. And q is k and l. So I can take, instead of and is there, right? So I can take it separately. K is odd and I'll take r, that is l is odd. Okay, I will take this. So we need to give an indirect proof, that is we need to start with the contrapositive, that is we need to assume negation P is true. Negation Q is true, negation Q is true. We need to start with this, negation Q is true. Or we need to assume that K is even. Okay, K is even. So we'll start with this one, K is even. Okay, I'll start with this. So that means that I can write K as 2m for some integer m, is it not? 2m for some integer m. So what will be KL? KL, it will be 2m into L, or it is 2ml. Right? Again, you can observe this is even. Right? This is even. That means KL is even. Right? Or we are saying that we are contradicting or we are saying that P is false, right? So we have inferred that P is false. That means negation P is true, thereby proving the contrapositive. That is, right? We have started with this contrapositive. We have taken the negation Q is true and got negation P is true. Thereby we are proving the contrapositive. And this proof of contrapositive is an indirect proof to the conditional. It is an indirect proof to the conditional. This is how you need to solve the problem. So next we'll move to the next kind of proof, that is proof by contradiction. Okay, proof by contradiction. So how do we solve this kind of proof is, first of all, we will assume that P implies Q is false. That means what will be P? P will be true, Q will be false, right? And we are going to start with assuming that Q is false. Okay, so what will be our hypothesis? So hypothesis is assume that P implies Q is false. That is, assume P is true and Q is false, right? If P implies Q has to be false, P should be true and Q has to be false, is it not? Okay, so here we are discussing proof by contradiction. Okay, so first of all, based on the question, we have written what is hypothesis. So let's translate this basically to the form that is required. So if n square is odd, then n is odd. So we'll write what is analysis. So before writing analysis, I will be writing what is P and what is Q. So P denotes n square is odd and Q denotes n is odd. Okay, n is odd. So now I'll write what is analysis. So we are starting with the assumption that we are assuming that Q is false. So now we are taking Q is false. We are starting with this portion, assuming that Q is false. That means what will be n? N is odd is Q. So we are saying that n is even. So Q is false, right? N is even. So we can write n as n is equal to 2k, right? For some integer k. For some integer k. Correct? This is how we can write. So what will be n square? If I are going to write n square, what will be n square? N square will be 2k the whole square, or it will be 4k square. And so what we infer from this? It is 4k square means it is evidently even, right? Or we are saying that, see, we have obtained what n square is even. So what is there in P? What does P denotes? N square is odd. Or what we have found out is, we have this is a contradiction, right? This is a contradiction to the statement that P is true. Okay? Or we can say we have arrived at, see, n square is even. We have arrived at P is false. Okay? So this contradicts. So I can write this contradicts the assumption, that P is true, right? So we have assumed P true, right, in the beginning, and we have obtained that P is false. So our assumption is wrong that P is true. So thereby, in view of this contradiction, okay, we infer that the conditional P implies Q So we infer that the conditional P implies Q is true. Okay. In view of this contradiction, we infer that the conditional P implies Q is true. right? We are arriving at just the opposite. So what our assumption was false. Therefore, we are giving this as a direct proof. We are giving this as a proof of contradiction for the conditional. So next, in the next video session, you will see about other kinds of proofs. So in this particular video presentation, let's see about other methods of proof. So we have already discussed, I've already discussed about proofs like direct proofs, indirect proofs, and proofs by contradiction. So let's see two more proofs, that is proof by exhaustion and proof by existence. And after discussing these two proofs, let's see two methods of disproofs, that is disproof by contradiction and disproof by counterexample. So let's take a particular problem. So as we all know what is meant by proof by exhaustion, that is if we want to test this particular statement, that is for all x belongs to some universe S, comma p of x. So if we want to say this particular statement is true, we need to check for each and every element that belongs to the universe S if the open statement is true or false. Okay, that is nothing but your proof by exhaustion. So let's take the problem. We need to prove that every even integer in n with 2 less than equal to n less than equal to 26. That is, we need to take all these numbers with this range. That is, I need to take the universe S consists of 2, 4, all even integers, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8 and so on up till 26. So this is the universe S. We need to prove for all S belongs to X, P of X. Okay, we need to prove for all X belongs to S, comma P of X. So what is our open statement P of X? P of X tells X is the sum of at most 3 perfect squares. So this is our open statement. X is the sum of at most 3 perfect squares. Okay. So let's see how this can be written. So we have to solve this by checking for each and every element in the universe S. So let's start with 2. So we know the universe consists of 2. So 2 can be written as, so it should be at most 3 perfect squares. Okay, it can be written as sum of 2 or 1. Okay, so 2 can be written as 1 square plus 1 square. 4 can be written as 2 square. Right? What about 6? 6 can be written as, start from the lowest. So if I take 1 square plus 1 square, okay, it will be 2 plus 2 square, 2 plus 4. Okay, like this. Start from the lowest and then adjust. So next, how can 8 be written as? So if we start with 1 square plus 1 square, and again if I take this next step further, that is 1 square plus 1 square plus 2 square plus 1 square, then again it's not possible, again 1 square. So it should not be written as more than 3, right? So I will start from 2, a bit more than 1. Okay, it can be written as 2 square plus 2 square. Is it possible? Yes. So next we'll see how can 10 be written as. 10 can be written as, so here this covers 8, right? Still I cannot bring 2 more. Why? Because at most you need to have 3 perfect squares. This requires 2 more of 1s, and 1 more of 2s is not possible. That means I cannot have plus 2 square, which will turn out to 10. No, it's not. The sum is not equal to 10. So I cannot have again plus 1 square because it exceeds at most 3 perfect squares. That condition violates. So I'll be starting with 3. Okay, 3 square, that covers 9 plus 1. So this is how I can write 10. So next, let's see how can 12 be written as. 12 can be written as 2 square. If I start with 2 square, 2 square, 8, 8, 4. So this is how I can write 12. So next, if I want to write if I want to write the remaining terms, that is, if I want to write 14, how can 14 be written? 14 can be written as 3 square. We'll start with 3 square plus, so this goes 9 plus 4 plus 1. Okay. So this will be 14. So next we will see how can the remaining terms be written, that is 16. How can 16 be written? 18, 20, 22, 24 and 26. Okay, 16 can be written as just 4 square. 18 can be written as, let's start with this one only, 4 square plus, so this goes 16, 17, 18, right? So at most 3. Next, 20 can be written as 4 square plus. So next I can write this goes 8. So 8 plus I can write, so sorry, this is actually 16, right? See, this is 16 plus, and 16 plus you require 4. That is 2 square. Next, 22 can be written as 3 square plus 3 square, so which will be 18. 18 plus 4, which will be 22. Okay. So next, 24 can be written as 4 square plus 2 square plus 2 square. Similarly, this can be written as 5 square plus 1 square. Okay, so each and every term in the universe of S can be written as the sum of at most 3 perfect squares. Therefore, we have tested for each and every element. That is nothing but your proof of exhaustion. We have tested that for each and every element X in the universe S, it is a sum of at most 3 perfect squares. Okay, so this establishes the proof. So this is the proof by exhaustion. Okay, next let's see another kind of proof, that is proof by existence. That is, here we need to check for any particular element belongs to the universe whether it satisfies the open statement. So let's see the question. So the question says, prove that there exists a real number x such that x cube plus 2x square minus 5x minus 6 equals 0. Okay, we need to take any real number, and that real number should satisfy this question. So what if I take 1? If I take 1, when you substitute 1 in place of x, you get 1 cube plus 2 square minus 5 minus 6, which will be 1 plus 2, 3 minus 5 minus 8 minus 2 minus 6. Okay, you can observe, you will get here 1 plus 2 minus 5 minus 6. Is it equal to 0? 3 minus 5 minus 2 minus 6. Is minus 8 equal to 0? No, it's not equal to 0, right? So what if I take x equal to minus 1? If I take x equal to minus 1, the equation turns to be minus 1 the whole cube is minus 1, minus 2, okay, plus 5 minus 6. So what do we get? Minus 3, okay. So what will be this one? This is plus itself, okay. So minus 1 plus 2 plus 5 minus 6. So we'll get 6 minus 6 equals 0, right? So this equation is satisfied by this value x equal to minus 1, and it belongs to the set of real numbers. So we have to take only that elements from the universe. So it is enough to prove one element that satisfies the open statement. Okay, so we have proved this. So this is nothing but proof of existence. Okay, proof of existence. So it is enough to prove for some element and saying that P of A is true. Okay, this is how we can prove by existence. Next we'll see disproof by contradiction. Okay, disprove by contradiction. So here we are supposed to disprove the conditional, that is we are assuming P is true and Q is true first, and we end up with the contradiction and we conclude that P implies Q is false. So this is nothing but disproving the conditional by contradiction. Okay, next. So let's take a problem, that is the sum of two odd integers is an odd integer. Okay, sum of two odd integers is an odd integer. So this is the question. So let's write what is given. So if I take A and B as odd integers, so if A and B are odd integers, so let me take this as P, and Q is a sum of the two odd integers. Okay, sum of the two odd integers, that is A plus B is an odd integer. So this is our Q. So this is our P and this is our Q. So what we need to assume is, we need to assume P is true and Q is true. That is, we need to say that A and B are odd integers. That means A is an odd integer, right? So how can I write A as A is 2k1 plus 1 and B is also 2k2 plus 1. So let me denote this by equation 1. Okay, I am writing both of them as an odd integer. Now, I should also assume Q is true, right? Q is true. What is Q? A plus B is an odd integer. So I need to write this one also as in terms of odd integer. So let me write it over here. So A plus B equals, let's say 2k 3 plus 1. Let me denote this by 2. So, but what do we get from 1? From equation 1, if I add these two terms, I will be getting 2k1 plus 1 plus 2k2 plus 1. Or it is equal to 2 of k1 plus k2 plus 1. Right? So, this is purely, it's an even integer. It's purely even integer. That means you are arriving at A plus B is an even integer. So what was our assumption? Q is true as well as P is true, right? But we have arrived at A plus B. A plus B is an even integer. We have arrived at A plus B is an even integer. That means Q has turned to be false. Therefore, this is nothing but the contradiction to the statement that Q is true. Therefore, we are disproving the conditional. We have got Q is false, right? So, P implies Q obviously is false. So, this is a disproof by contradiction. This is how we can solve the problem. So, I can say that we have arrived at even integer. That means A plus B is an even integer. So, this contradicts, okay, this contradicts the assumption. So, this contradicts the assumption of 2. That is, the assumption was A plus B is an odd integer. So, this contradicts the assumption that A plus B is an odd integer. So, in view of this contradiction, we can say that, in view of this contradiction, we can infer that P implies Q is false. So, this disproves the conditional. This disproves the conditional. Okay, next let's see about disproof by counter example. So what is this disproof by counter example is? So we are going to take one particular component in the universe and disproving the conditional. So if I want to say for all x belongs to S, comma P of x, if I want to disprove this, that is if this has to be false, even if we show that one particular element in the universe is false, this entire statement is false. So that is nothing but disproved by a counter example. Okay, so let's take the problem. The problem is given as product of any two odd integers is a perfect square. That is, if I take odd integers, okay, any odd integer, for example, if I take A and B, okay, I denote the two odd integers by A and B. If I take A as 3 and B as 3, Okay, so product of them is nothing but 9. Okay, 9, can it be represented as a perfect square? Can it be represented as a perfect square? 9 can be represented, right? So 9 can be written as 3 square. 9 can be written as 3 square. Okay, so similarly next, so 9 can be written as 3 square. Next, how can we disprove this? So let us take another example. A is 3 and B is 5. So what is the product of these two? A and B. A and B will be 15. So can it be written as the product of, so it says that product of any two odd integers, we are taking odd integers only, right, is a perfect square. But according to this counter example, taken A is 3 and B is 5, the product of these two odd integers is 15, which is not a perfect square. Therefore, this serves as a counter example. Okay, this is nothing but disproving the conditional by counter example. Disproving the conditional by counter example. So these are all the methods of proof and methods of disproof.